Surprise microphone. I'm just getting this out of the way, okay? I'm getting it started off, okay? Because I don't want you to hold it against me if I forget a surprise microphone this episode. Why? Because today we are perusing a section of Reddit that I like to call Petty Revenge. And I like to call it that because that's what it's called. Starting with, father-in-law punched me below the belt, so I bricked his switch. Read this sentence to an 18th century child. So to start off, I actually have a great relationship with my father-in-law. We have a lot of the same hobbies, actively hang out, and he knows I was the one to do this to him, and he found it hilarious. Okay, so we're openly getting a happy ending here. The situation happened back in December of 2021. Me being with my wife's family for the holidays and quickly them all getting drunk. Since I'm usually the Dunkin' Donuts, I didn't drink since I was going to have to drive out of the middle of Philly. But as the night went on, I was playfully joking around with my wife and her sister, arguing something stupid like the best thing to do in a game, and honestly just rage baiting my wife like a good husband. Her father, completely drunk, came over and laughed as I rage baited her and told her, here's how you deal with your husband. And punched me in the wiener, dude. Punch me in the freaking wiener. Obviously he didn't punch me full force, but I'm sure most guys here know even a light hit can be enough to make you keel over. Even just a subtle tap of the giblets is enough to take a man to his knees. As the night went on, he even apologized and offered me to punch him back, but I said no. But I was obviously gonna get him back. A month later, Pokemon Legends Arceus came out. I just got that. I haven't played it yet. I downloaded it though. That's like a big get. People love that one. A month later, Pokemon Legends Arceus came out and me and her entire family got it. Father-in-law also getting it and loving the game. But I beat the game much faster than all of them, and having hunted shiny Pokemon for years, carried some of them over. My favorite being a shiny Giratina I had. And Angela Girantana. You caught a shiny one of these, huh? So he either caught one of these or he caught, one of these. Amazingly, before it became public knowledge as far as I knew, I figured out that if specifically a shiny Giratina used Shadow Sneak, it would just crash your whole Switch and force you to fully shut it down and restart the device. Cue Petty Revenge. A little while later, we are all hanging out at sister-in-law's house playing Pokemon, and I nonchalantly offered all of them various shiny Pokemon that I had hunted through the years, claiming I had a lot. I didn't, but didn't want him being too suspicious, and knowing his tastes, I knew immediately he would love to have a shiny Giratina. So I traded it to him and just waited long enough that I kind of just forgot. Then, months later, when we were all hanging out, he was complaining that his Switch kept crashing. He had to restart it, uninstalled and reinstalled all of his games, but it just kept crashing when he was playing Arceus, and no matter what he did, it wouldn't work. So I asked him, oh, is it whenever you use Shadow Sneak with that Giratina I gave you? He went silent, and then I immediately followed up with, that's for punching me in the dick in December. He couldn't stop laughing, as he said in his own words, oh my god, I wasted real time on that. I respect the long con. It was even funnier when a few days later, Articales articles started popping up for him about that glitch in Arceus as well after he found out from me. Everyone in the family agreed it was pretty effing funny. Love that. Love this. Yeah, that works. I mean, it's not completely destroying his Switch, is it? Well, it kind of is. You have to restart it and all, download, uninstall your games. Yeah. I think it's pretty good petty revenge, don't you? Pretty good. And good on the dad having being a good sport about it too. I don't know why I thought bricked his Switch was some new slang for some type of violence. Yeah. Because the Switch is like a thing you get off a tree and you hit your kid with, allegedly. This is what I hear. I don't have kids. Listen, MFer, one step closer and I'll brick your effing Switch so fast your head will spin. Funny, but this isn't what bricked means. Actually, it is in a Switch context. Well, okay, bricked means it's like dead forever. That's what bricked means. My thought was this guy meant bricked up. I saw the title and was thinking, okay, maybe a touch far, but certainly nothing too outrageous. And then I saw the offered me to punch him back and moved to that's too far to destroy a device like that when he made that offer, forcing a crash, or better, a repeating crash that does not otherwise render the device unusable, which is the proper term for bricked. Yeah. Of course, quite in line for the severity of the revenge. That's honestly the perfect kind of petty revenge. Clever, harmless, and so much funnier because he actually respected it. Yeah, definitely a nerdy revenge. This is pretty nerdy revenge. Next story. The Curse Jar. Back when we were children, my siblings and I would indulge in the occasional curse word. Nothing crazy, we were generally pretty good kids. Well, one night, my brother drops an F-bomb at the dinner table, and my dad decides enough is enough. How young were you when you were a child, dropping the F-bomb at the dinner table? Because that's, saying ass, something like that, maybe that's not so bad, but an F-bomb when you're 12 in front of your parents? Yeah, I don't know. I would try to stop that myself. Have you guys ever tried to quit cussing? Like just in general? I've tried it a few times. And like I used to teach. And so a few weeks leading up to me going off to teach somewhere in Massachusetts or Hong Kong or whatever, I would practice not cussing. I would like really actively try to stop cussing. And I think I should get back into it because it's good to find alternative words for cuss words every once in a while. Anyway, I digress. Well, one night my brother drops an F-bomb at the dinner table and my dad decides enough is enough. Curse jar with a 25-cent penalty is starting immediately for everyone. My siblings and I start looking at each other. For everyone? One of us tentatively confirms. Yep, for all of us in this household. Okay, got it. What my father forgot to account for was our general inspiration for cursing was, well, him. We got 50 cents out of him by the end of dinner. It was on. We spent the next week clocking him for every single infraction. It was glorious. In a week, we'd gotten $53 out of him. Let's see, 53 times 4, 212 cusses, right? He took us out to dinner with the money accumulated in the jar. He went out of town after that for a business trip. He came home and no one ever spoke about the curse jar again. The fact that you're able to count 212 curses out of your dad in a week is like, he must use it in every third sentence or something. Wait a minute. In a week, if you did 212 cussing, 212 times divided by 7, you counted him cussing 30 times a day? Really? 30 a day? That's a lot. Does your dad talk that much? I don't know. All right. Anyway, what I would say here, I think curse jars aren't a bad idea, but it's like, is this revenge? It's not really revenge, is it? It's just kind of like a standard that he set himself, that they set. I don't think that's revenge. This is more like a consequence of a rule that he set up himself. It's like just a natural consequence. It's not really revenge, is it? But let's see what the comments say. True story. Semicolon. I was a goody two-shoes growing up and I lived in a house where my parents never swore. I was watching a movie one day and I heard the word pissed and I'd never heard it before. I asked my mom about it and she said, it's a swear word. We don't say that word in our house. I live in the US where it may or may not be considered a swear word depending on who you ask, but in our house it was. So I knew that kids who swore had to get their mouths washed out with soap because my cousins had to have that done. So I went to the bathroom and washed my own mouth out with the liquid soap at the sink. I was crying when I came back downstairs and told my mom that I washed my mouth out so she didn't have to. She started laughing and asked why I would do that because I didn't actually use the word. I just asked what it meant. It all could have been avoided. I'm 34 now and still shake my head when I think about that. Hey, you got a strong sense of guilt. You got a strong sense of shame. In a really sweet, innocent way, This happened to me in a different way. We were watching G.I. Jane, and what I mean by that is I walked in to my sister, my mom, my dad. They were all sitting on the couch watching G.I. Jane, and there's a scene in there. Demi Moore's character tells somebody, she's like, suck my D word, right? She says that. I've never heard that word before. I think it was like, how old was I? Like 7, 8, 9? Never heard that word before. And I was like, literally looked at my parents. I was like, what does D-word mean? And they laughed and they thought I was being a little snot. And I was like, what does it mean? And then my mom goes, you're a pecker, Daniel. And I was like, oh, and I think my next line was like, why would you suck it? Let's move on from that. Kids don't know nothing. Lucky you got technically rewarded for cursing by going out to dinner. My brother and I got our mouths washed out with a used bar of soap for cursing. I still can't use bar soap nor smell Irish Spring soap without getting chills. Dude, Irish Spring soap? That's really fragrant. I also curse far less than my younger siblings who have never had their mouths washed with soap for cursing. In my house, the F-bomb got you lava. Horrors. What is lava? Is that soap? Heavy duty hand cleaner? I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's bad. Brings back memories of a certain scene from The Christmas Story, a cult classic. Dude, so good. Washing your mouth out with soap. Ugh. I've never done that. I've never had to do that, so I'm not having a visceral reaction to this, but it seems like a lot of people have a visceral reaction to that. Isn't that toxic or is it not toxic? It's gotta be toxic for you. Vroom Vroom Jerks is the title of this next one. This took place in 2017, but the memory makes me laugh. I had terrible neighbors across the street who liked to sit outside and rev their loud cars and street race on main roads late into the night. Boo! You know what? This happened to me one time when I lived in Hollywood. I'm going to say this really quickly. In Hollywood, it was like 2 a.m. and I heard it just really, really loud, insane cars outside. And I was like, God, it's probably these like crappy little, freaking Honda Civics like tuned up and you got a muffler on a, Toyota or whatever. And I was like, I looked outside. I was really tired. I looked outside. I opened up the blinds. I looked out to judge these people and judge their cars. And I swear to you, it was like a brand new neon Lamborghini chasing like a brand new McLaren. And these are insanely expensive supercars. And I went from being mad to, because I'm a car guy, I went from being mad to like, damn. Oh, like, things are different in LA. You know, because I just come from Florida, where that would have been a tuned up Honda Civic. No, these were like supercars just skirting around my neighborhood, which isn't good. It's also not good. And yeah, they're jerks, but at least I got some eye candy out of it, you know? It was obnoxious and kept my household awake. My aunt had a huge Ford F-150, and you know what beasts they are. I messaged her about the jerks who would not stop, and she said she would stop it. 2 weeks later, she did a muffler and resonator delete and drove into my neighborhood with her engine roaring like a fully grown bass in a chorus of tenors whose voices were still changing. She stopped across their driveway and revved her engine for a solid 15 minutes. The jerks could not have a conversation or sit in their living room because of the noise. Let me tell you, my aunt was a 5'11" butch lady who wore flannel shirts with the sleeves ripped off, jeans and cowboy boots. She wore her hair buzzed and had tattooed sleeves of roses, barbed wire, and bulldogs on both arms. All she had to do was stand up out of her truck when the puffed up jerk faces came outside, and they deflated at the sight of her. Ha 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 ha! My aunt waved at me through the window and drove off, engine roaring. The jerks never revved their cars again in the neighborhood. They moved away in 2020 right before COVID hit, so they may very well be terrorizing someone else with their noisy cars. My aunt passed this morning from cancer, so I share this memory of her. Rest in peace, Auntie Tay. Very sweet story. Let's hear what a F-150 exhaust sounds like. Pretty meaty. Now that's what the normal mufflers, like, it sounds good, right? But if you take off muzzler and resonator delete, so this is what it probably sounded like. Dude, that sounds crazy. I don't like cars like that. I mean, I don't mind a Ford F-150. I think they're good. But doing that just to make your car sound different, I don't know. Kind of like that sound. I know I'm being such a boy right now, but I like that sound. I'm gonna make a little tune out of this. R.I.P. Auntie Tay. Very gently, we will ease into the next story. Now, Grandma said he'd never use it, so Grandpa proved her wrong. This is a crazy title, dude. I'm locked in. I'm interested here. Please allow me to tell you a short story about my grandpa. He wanted a rider mower. Grandma said no. She said there wasn't enough yard to justify it. He would never use it. Grandpa went and bought a rider mower and proceeded to go to the grocery store, the park, the doctor's office 3 streets over, bowling with the guys, anywhere he could, and that rider mower. Okay, so he's using it like a golf cart, like a little, just a little local get around. Good for him, dude. I'm sure anyone who saw him driving down the road with groceries on the mower deck probably thought he either was getting around a DUI or had the keys taken away for poor driving. But I swear to you, the man never touched a drop of alcohol since he got back from Vietnam. And no one would ever take his keys away because he was actually a responsible driver until the day he died in his sleep next to Grandma, who passed 6 hours later after calling all their kids. Oh my God. But he had bought the expensive rider mower, and he was dead set on proving to Grandma that he was going to use it. Edit for popular comments. Grandpa did actually mow with the mower, but mostly he mowed the whole neighborhood because Grandma was right. Their yard was too small for it. Most of the neighbors enjoyed being in on the gag of the guy in his 90s trying to prove his bride, also in her 90s, wrong. This is so funny. This is like chaotic good, I think. Wouldn't you say? I know you can get a DUI on a mower. I meant more people thought his license had been revoked, so he was driving something that didn't require a license. I had no idea George Jones did this. I don't know who that is. And I have no idea if Grandpa was a Jones fan, but I'm inclined to say not. This was in Columbia, Missouri in the mid-1990s. It wasn't exactly rural, but definitely not yet a full-on metropolis. Top comment here says, he mowed down her objections without the blade even spinning. Exactly. He was cutting through arguments, not grass. Love that. You know who else would have loved that? Auntie Tay. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Lifelong couples passing that close together is one of the true testaments to how much they mean to each other. Word, if something happened to my wife and my kid was old enough to take care of himself, I'd let myself fade away. You know, I think about this a lot. And I used to really, I really had like kind of a dark thought pattern on death for a long time. I'm sure we've all had that moment of like, you know, existential dread or, you know, crisis, kind of thinking about death and what lies beyond and all of that. And I had that moment maybe last year or 2 years ago. I was just thinking about death a lot. And I read some books by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. That helped a little bit, helped me think about it. Anyway, with all that said, the death thing. It is so interesting to me that your brain, your body, your mind, you can just kind of think about it and just, you know, if you're in your later stages in life, like where you're approaching that time, there can be a triggering event and you can just kind of go, yeah, I'm good, and just tap out. You know, there's so many instances of that. Now, obviously, I'm oversimplifying it, and you know what I'm talking about, right? You can just let yourself fade in fairly short order, it seems. They loved each other desperately and were married for 75 years. We all swear Grandma only survived the night so she could tell the family where to find their bodies. She made her calls, shaved Grandpa, dressed him in a suit, oh my God, dressed herself, and laid down next to him, holding his hand. When my mother got there at 10 a.m., less than 4 hours later after Grandma's call, she was gone. Mom felt like she was betraying Grandma's wishes when she changed their clothes because Grandma hadn't counted on elimination postmortem. All right, so we got to a this is the truth of this situation. Sometimes you gotta, you know, you got one locked in the chamber, and then when you die, you know, your bowels continue the journey. It's kind of weird that this is what we're thinking of. This is what we're talking about right now. Let's move on to something else. The phone company assigned Nintendo game support number as my home number. What? That sucks, doesn't it? How would you fix that problem? What would you do? Many years ago, I moved into a house in Redmond, Washington, home to Microsoft, and soon I discovered Nintendo of America. Both companies had offices a few blocks from my house. A few months before I moved in, Nintendo canceled their local number for game support hotline to an 800 number and gave up on the local number. This meant anyone across the US or Canada calling that number would not reach Nintendo. The phone company assigned the old number as my residential phone number. As soon as the phone was plugged in, it started ringing off the hook with people calling to get support for a game at all hours of the day. Can you call support for video games now? Like, for example, if I'm playing Red Dead Redemption or something, can I call a hotline and be like, how do I beat this mission? Like, does that exist? Are people employed to problem solve video games, or is this more tech support for the device itself? Curious question that I don't even think I can look up, even if I tried. This is what I'm thinking he should do. I called the phone company, and initially they refused to change the number. They told me the company policy was to charge a hefty fee to switch the number, and there was no guarantee it would not be an old business number. I just moved in, so I didn't have the cash. Instead of dealing with the endless calls, I decided to pick up the phone and get my petty revenge. First, I would demand a credit card from any caller. I told them to go into mommy's purse and pull one out. And then I would have them read the number and the name off the card. I never wrote the information down. I just wanted to see what would happen if I asked for it. Sometimes the parents would pick up the phone and start screaming at me, so I started screaming back. I would thank them for the new TV, complain that the card was over the limit, and do anything I felt would entertain me. I said some things that were inappropriate 30 years ago, and they are even less appropriate today. I'm not proud of it, but I was young, frustrated, and thought if I was annoying enough, they would switch the number. Sure enough, one day I picked up the phone and it was the local phone company telling me the good news: we will be updating your number at no cost. I guess more than a few parents called Nintendo demanding I be fired for my behavior on the phone, and that's when they realized I didn't work there and the mistake of letting the old phone number go. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you were still on the Nintendo record somewhere and they paid to get it cleaned. And they paid to fix it. That's interesting. Okay. I was trying to see where this was going, because right now it just seemed like you were kind of scamming people. Okay. This paragraph here made me think like, okay, you were just being kind of crazy to people. Maybe just unplug that phone, you know? But okay, so you thought if you would be annoying enough, they'd switch the number. I don't know how it got to there, but I guess, yeah, you got parents calling Nintendo demanding you be fired for behavior on the phone. Yeah, okay. The new number had never been used previously, so no more 2 a.m. calls except from drunk dialing friends. Well, that's very nice. Yeah, okay, what a story. 30 years ago, huh? Let's see what the comments have to say. My home number was a daycare's old number. Guess how many kids hadn't been dropped off that morning before they were willing to change it? How does that get back to the daycare, though? That's what I'm trying to figure out. If you're answering the phone and just saying crazy stuff to people who think they're talking to somebody else, how does that get back to the phone company? I'm glad it worked. My parents' old home phone used to be an emergency vet office. I still remember picking up the phone. I was 10, and some lady screaming, "Our radish is safe for dogs." Lady, how the hell did you even get your dog to eat a radish? If wondering, yes, radishes are safe for dogs in moderation, but only the root, not the greens. Nintendo, am I right?
Boys, am I right, boys?
Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys?
Am I right, boys? Oh, wow. That's a pretty good revenge story, even though the middle-aged me with 2 kids technically does not approve. But yeah, you got 2 big organizations who couldn't give a crap that this happened to you, so you had to do something drastic. I agree with you. I mentioned I had made some comments I would not have made today. I cannot believe how many kids fetched the credit card when asked. Okay, so the end goal here is to have them call Nintendo and complain. Have the parents call Nintendo and complain. That's interesting. Less epic, but a friend of mine had one from a pizza place. He'd take their order and say, okay, remember, if it's not there in 30 minutes, it's free. Somehow the fast food place I used to work at managed to set it up to where all calls went to my cell phone. I don't even know how, but it only started after I quit. Every person who called to place an order was told if their order wasn't ready when they got there, it was free. Oh yeah, I love that. Oh, that's great. Of course, I wasn't a complete and total monster. I told them about the forwarding immediately. After the first day, I informed them of the new phone order policy. On day 2, I did legitimately take down all the orders, including customer name and phone number, with everything they ordered and sent it in the group text with the manager and owner. That's very kind of you. That's a very nice thing you did. You're just kind of working for free. That's very kind. I made it just past lunch on day 2 before it stopped. I wish I'd been a fly on the wall witnessing what was happening in the store. Apparently, the owner had been there for the lunch rush that day. I would pay money for a video of that shift, especially if it included audio. This right here is great. Great little petty revenge. I love this. I worked at that call center for a bit. It was rather fun helping kids hook up their Nintendo 64s because the parents couldn't figure it out. Oh, so it was a Nintendo call center. Interesting. Was typically the AV cables were wrong. The kids would go absolutely nuts when it started working finally and would just drop the phone on the ground without hanging up. That's cute. Oh, you got to help these kids be so excited and just fix this thing. And yeah, man. Oh, God. You know what's a big trend lately is like those CRTVs, I think. Those old school, boob tubes, you know what I mean? Like those heavy TVs, this kind of thing.
Why would any...
Like, it's a fun little retro thing. Like, there's like a big, collector world out there of these old boob tube type TVs. And I think it's fun. I think it's cool, to have something, like everybody's looking for something that's super technically proficient nowadays, And it's fun to have something a little bit more, retro. Let's hear
This
this.
is one of the best things about having a CRT. Let me explain. When you hook up your game console and power it on, it shows up on the screen instantly with no delay.
That's true, because you don't have like software you got to turn on, and you don't have dude, whenever I turn on my TV in my bedroom, it's a Samsung TV from 10 years ago or something. Whenever I turn that TV on, it automatically plays this weird movie channel. It's like some Samsung satellite. I don't know how to stop that. Like, it always turns, and I have to wait for the software to load and hit Netflix, and it just takes a minute to load up and blah, blah, blah. But this is true, man. You just turn it on, boom, you're done. This is so much fun, dude. Are you serious? Yeah, some retro vibes, man. Some fun, old school. I don't know. I think style, Like, everybody wants the fastest, newest thing, and I'm one of them. I mean, you've seen my look at, I got a computer next to my computer. And I'm recording on a different computer. I got 3 computers in arm's reach of each other. But it's like sometimes style, sometimes fun, like old school retro stuff is fun. If you're watching this, if you have a retro pleasure, I'm looking into getting some new hobbies. Let me know what your retro pleasure is, huh? Because I can't, if I turn on a brand new video game, I'm not even interested. I'll play the tutorial for 3 hours, because the new games take 3 hours to get through a freaking tutorial, and then I've lost my interest because I don't even know what the game mechanics are yet, and I'm 3 hours into this thing. Yeah, I don't know what I'm glad we all stayed focused here. Outro, I guess.